At a meeting with traditional religious leaders, President Tinubu urges peaceful coexistence nationwide.
Court of Appeal upholds ruling against 2025 PDP convention.
Governor Dauda Lawal of Zamfara State officially defects from PDP to APC.
Good morning, Nigeria. Today we shall discuss President Tinubu's economic policies, also known as Tinubunomics.
Tinubunomics. Interesting. An intriguing intellectual debate is beginning to take shape around the economic philosophy associated with the administration of Bola Ahmed Tinubu.
Indeed, increasingly described as Tinubunomics. The conversation draws attention to the ideas explored in the book Financialism, Water from an Empty Well, which the president co-authored with Brian Browne.
The central proposition is rather provocative. When finance begins to dominate production, economies may drift into dangerous territory.
It also raises a deeper question about whether today's economic policies are being driven by coherent long-term vision or simply responding to immediate pressures.
You are quite right, Yere, and when you look closely, the discussion moves beyond economic statistics into something far more fundamental. The argument is that financial crises are rarely abstract occurrences. They are often rooted in human impulses, ambition, self-interest, even greed.
I quite agree with that point. Now, the book also reflects on this dynamics, which also suggests that governance must carefully balance these forces. In essence, the challenge is to whether public policy can channel human drive productively without allowing it to spiral into excess.
That's true, and that is where Tinubunomics enters the conversation as a more than a theory. It emphasizes strengthening the real economy, agriculture, industrial production, infrastructure, and innovation, rather than relying heavily on speculative finance.
And for Nigeria, the implication is clear. Development must be anchored on productive capacity through strategies such as backward integration and policies that support domestic enterprise.
Ultimately, the debate resonates with everybody. Everyone concerns jobs, food security, cost of living, and economic stability as Nigerians watch closely to see how these ideas translate into tangible improvement in livelihoods and sustainable national growth. So this is the outlook on Good Morning Nigeria today. We are live on the network service of the NTA. Thanks for joining us. I am Ademola Adeoye.
Of course, we expect everyone to stay tuned, to this so that you can understand the dynamics of Tinubunomics. All right, I'm Henry John. Welcome to another insightful conversation where issues of national importance take center stage. In a short while, we'll have the super review. That's when Chukwudi Okoli Ugbaja joins us. He's already in the building. Of course, we can feel his presence right here in the studio. But for now, we have Ibrahim Dan Hamidu ready for the morning news. Ibrahim, good morning to you.
Henry and Ademola, good morning. Good morning to everyone watching. Here's the news. President Bola Tinubu says his administration is committed to building a strong economy in order to bequeath a better nation to the coming generations of Nigerians. It was at the interfaith breaking of fast dinner for traditional and religious leaders in the State House. President Tinubu pointed out that his administration has saved Nigeria from being bankrupt.
The duty. This nation has never surrendered its value, its conscience, to the marauders, to not do wells. That this nation is a nation of believers and greatness.
We know you are doing your utmost best to ensure that we have peace, progress, stability in this country.
The Court of Appeal Abuja Division has upheld the judgment of the Federal High Court in Abuja, which on October 31, 2025, restrained the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, from recognizing the outcome of the 2025 National Convention of the People's Democratic Party, PDP. Delivering judgment in an appeal against the Federal High Court decision, Justice Uchechukwu Onyemenam held that PDP violated constitutional provisions required before such convention can become valid. Zamfara State Governor Dauda Lawal has defected from the People's Democratic Party PDP to the ruling All Progressives Congress APC. The decision was made after extensive consultations with stakeholders, citing the need for stability, progress and sustainable development in Zamfara State. A statement by the Director of Media and Communication Governor's Office, Nuhu Salihu Anka, says internal crisis in PDP, prolonged leadership disagreements and structural challenges within the PDP at national and state levels prompted the governor to join the APC. The Social Democratic Party, SDP, at its National Executive Committee meeting in Abuja for the year 2026 approved and ratified 9 decisions of the party taken between March 2022 and March 2026, including the adoption of the votes and proceedings of 9th March 2026, the appointment of the national chairman of the party in the person of Dr. Sadiq Umar Abubakar Gombe was also approved and ratified. The Inspector General of Police, Olatunji Disu, has constituted a new force management team as part of efforts to reposition the Nigeria Police Force for strategic reforms and improved security delivery across the country. Anthony Placid is now the new Force Public Relations Officer, replacing Benjamin Hundeyin. President Bola Tinubu has signed into law the bill to domesticate the African Union Convention for the protection and assistance of internally displaced persons in Nigeria. The legislation, also known as the Kampala Convention Act, seeks to strengthen humanitarian protection and uphold the rights and dignity of displaced citizens. In a statement, Deputy Speaker of the House of Representatives, Benjamin Kalu, who sponsored the bill alongside 6 other lawmakers, described the President's assent as a significant demonstration of the federal government's commitment to addressing the plight of displaced Nigerians with empathy and urgency. That's the news for now. Good Morning Nigeria continues with Yenre and Ademola after this break.
TerraQ, unwrap joy, unleash taste.
holy month of Ramadan is here again. A month to submit to the will of Allah. A month to share. A month to care. And most importantly, a month of goodness. Start well and end well with the goodness of peak milk at Sahar and Iftar, and share the nourishing goodness of peak milk with everyone around you. Ramadan Kareem.
Peak. Reach for your peak.
Heartburn is caused by stomach acid rising. Gaviscon Double Action neutralizes this and forms a barrier to stop them rising for up to 4 hours. Gaviscon.
Once upon a time, there was a land plagued by blandness. Food had lost its flavor and there was nothing left to savor. Just then, the tastemaker arrives to restore taste to this land of blandness. All she did was sprinkle, stir, and serve. And from that day on, they knew one truth. All they need is sprinkle, stir, serve.
Tastemaker. My people, toilets have stains which bleach cannot clean effectively. But Harpic is thicker and sticks better, which gives 10x better cleaning versus bleach and kills germs. Oh, wow. You can now see that Harpic is better than bleach.
Today, if I hear said penny charges today, I keep asking you to download the Smart Cash app and begin to enjoy 0 charges on your transfers. No be cho. If I hear say Smart Cash no charge you for these transactions, they make I bend.
No matter the transaction, Smart Cash no go charge you shishi. Whether na airtime or na data you buy, or you want pay for your light or na cable bill, na 0 charges for Smart Cash. This one no be cho. Work is day. See.
Yeah. I don't download that.
Make yourself a download Smart Cash app or dial *939# sharp.
Super Malt Multivitamin Active Teens. Super Malt Multivitamin Active Teens. Shine on.
From Sahur to Iftar. Prayer purifies. Blessings are shared. And happiness is celebrated in togetherness. Ramadan is all about pouring pure love. Ramadan Kareem from Golden Terra Oil.
Thanks for staying with us. You're still on to Good Morning Nigeria on the network service of the NTA. It's now time for newspaper review.
All right, Chukudi Okoli Ubaja is right here with us this morning. Chukudi, good to see you.
How are you?
Very
Good
well.
morning.
Good morning.
Thank you so much for giving my name its full auditory quality.
It deserves it.
Okoli Ubaja. Let it scatter your loudspeakers, the name. I don't care. Demo, how are you doing? Anytime, brother.
Very good.
So good to know you.
Good to see you too.
All right.
How many to? Oh, go ahead, please.
Let's begin with the papers now that we have. We'll begin with the blueprint. The blueprint leads with PDP in disarray. Appeal court nullifies Ibadan Convention. Zamfara governor quits. The riders, Lamido wins again. Courts blast Turaki faction. Upholds Ayamu orders suspension. All right. Away from that, Above the lead story, just below the masthead, we won't allow bandits take over Kwara, IGP assures. And above the masthead, federal government approves 50,000 additional slots for 2026 NYC mobilization. That's on page 13. Looking at the picture story, and it's interesting. Personnel of the Federal Fire Service battling to put out the fire, which engulfed Section C of the head of the Civil Service of the Federation building in Abuja yesterday. All right, below that, Dangote assures steady fuel supply. Marketers panic over price spike. And the writer says disruptions in Middle East cause of negative impacts, according to experts. And away from that, we have teenage pregnancy highest in northern Nigeria, according to a report. Wike upgrades Kwali Monarch to first-class chief. That's on page 6. And in the green strip, we have Nido Africa condemns detention of 42 Nigerians in Mozambique. And that's on page 6. So that's about it on the blueprint. Let's see what the Business NG is offering this morning. The Business NG leads with Nigeria to tax informal businesses at 1% of annual turnover in major reform. And in the red strip, long queues return at Lagos, Abuja filling stations as motorists hunt for petrol below 1,100 naira. That's on page 2. Above the masthead, Rivers Assembly rejects 4 of 9 commissioner nominees submitted by Governor Fubara. Right, looks like there's still tension in Rivers. And away from that, Dangote Refinery approves new loading list of 20 fuel marketers. That's on page 2. And finally, old Naira notes disappear from Nigeria's streets despite remaining legal tender. All right, have you noticed? The old notes disappearing.
Is disappearing. Okay,
The
gradually.
old ones. Yeah, the CBN will surely
It's a gradual
withdraw
withdrawal.
tactically over time.
It's a gradual withdrawal.
They look shredded anyway.
Okay, let's take a look at Daily Trust. Just below that nameplate. Middle East crisis, what oil windfall means for Nigeria. Zamfara governor defects to APC. Details on page 10. How we escaped school building collapse. Students. That's on page 6. Then the major headline reads 2027. Why PDP may not be on the ballot. Details of that story. It's on page 3 and 4. Then we have the last one. How military lost 3 commanding officers in 1 week. Chooks?
Yeah.
It's unfortunate. The the major picture, the front page picture here is the picture of the collapsed building, the school building in Lagos. And the students and the teachers have just left the building. And I think they collapsed yesterday evening around 4 p.m.
First of all, we want to thank Providence. We want to thank God for small mercies.
Yeah.
But this is not small mercy. This is big mercy.
huge.
If there's any English like that, it's huge. This is huge mercy.
Yeah.
You know, when people tell you that God works in mysterious ways, well, I don't want to reveal the Pastor Chukudi in me. Let's just.
No, I know.
It's a
Keep
little
that low.
analysis.
Yeah. When
So
they learnt-
truly, at times you don't expect Him. God shows you He's God. And if you are somebody who takes time to be sober, you'll know when God is around you. God is always around you, but sometimes He almost physically intervenes, and you thank Him for being God.
Imagine if this happened during the
Demola,
day.
that is the point.
Oh, no.
He's really the awesome God. He's really awesome. But I try not to bring religion into analysis, so that even atheists can enjoy.
But it's
the
also a call that standards should be maintained.
That is actually where we should go now, the integrity of the structure. What could have caused it? Is it that the buildings were old, or it was not given the kind of superstructure that will hold it there practically forever? What is it? Investigation is required to look into it so that it doesn't happen again somewhere else. Unfortunately, this has become a regular recital. God forbid we might read something like this again. That is what weakens me. You must take lessons from your past life. Experience is the greatest teacher, is the best teacher. How much of it do we imbibe in planning the future? That's the point. It's sometimes a function of lax supervision. You know, I remember in those days in Iseluku, there was a sanitary officer called Obogulu. He almost came to inspect your soup pot. You would not dare bring rotten plantain to Afo market in Iseluku. Who bought you? Obogolo will stop you on the way and say, Madam, don't take this to the market.
It's unhealthy.
That's the truth. I was in primary school. Who does it these days? Everything just kept going down.
Even when
he was a feared sanitary inspector. He'd not be anybody afraid. He'll tell you I'm doing my job.
We need more.
In those days, you had DO, Ogwashuku. The few cars you'll see, 404, Maurice Minor, an occasional Range Rover. I drove that in my dreams.
I'm thinking that what happened to our conscience as a people?
We lost standards. We lost values. But it's not in one area.
Every area.
Every facet of life.
True.
Then when the likes of my brother here and Chukudi say, no, that's not whom we were. I beg, those are not the real. Go back well.
Old school.
Old school. Then you look at them, they're not half as happy as you are.
Of course.
Yet they're talking. It's not right.
Because
the next thing you hear is that the internet has spoiled them. Internet has spoiled them. The data is cheaper in Japan than Nigeria. Yet their children are not like
the challenge.
They have a culture that parents teach children to adopt.
The challenge, Chooks, is we have misplaced priority.
Very misplaced. Very misplaced. But again, we are happy that our children did not go down.
Nobody was.
In bloodied, wreckage. That's it.
Anyways, we just hope that
PDP in disarray. The case of PDP, I'm tired of quoting Efeduku when I was doing what you're doing now. We called our own political platform then. Efeduku came to my program and said, the PDP has hit the dinosaur scenario. The dinosaur at a point got bigger than the environment. It couldn't be sustained, so it had to die. I don't know whether that's what eventually happened. Efeduku must be happy I'm quoting him now. This job you do is sweet. You meet some people who make you remember.
So is that like going to happen to the APC that is getting bigger?
The APC, no, you can preserve the behemoth if you allow ground rules to run your life. You can be big and be sustainable still. But when you begin to do one or two things, the first thing that kills a political party is umbrage against what should be pronouncements to sustain internal democracy. Internal democracy. Oh, it doesn't matter. We can all. You don't kill the party Binato. It comes gradually.
All right.
I pray that they resurface again.
One thing killing Nigerians now is the cost of fuel.
What I enjoy most these days is listening to analysis on the BBC, Al Jazeera, Sky News, and the rest of them. Somebody posited 3 days ago, that we should not bother too much. That President Trump could just wake up one day and say the war is over. That's the way he is. He gets easily bored. He moves on to the next thing. Christine Noem has been fired. The woman in charge of immigration is replaced, although there was an outcry. But then it's again the Trump tantrums, that's the way he is. His concentration doesn't seem to last.
It doesn't stretch.
He gets easily bored.
It doesn't stretch.
He gets easily bored. It reminds me of this man when he was the DG of NTA in those days. I interviewed him, the man from Rivers, Ben Bruce.
Okay, Ben.
He said, you better get your camera quickly. Otherwise, I walk away. I get easily bored. I've enjoyed myself, as a reporter.
But talking about the Trump...
I liked him.
Talking about the Trump tantrums, it's causing a lot of harm to some people.
Who does he care? Does it bother him?
That's the question.
In 2016, I wrote on Facebook, it's an allowed matter be now. Trump is not a trump card. They say, don't they talk again? 2016. See what did happen.
All right, looks like
But then Iran has to rearrange. The real problem Iran has is not really Israel, United States. Do the Arab neighbors of Iran love Iran? Talk to the experts, not me. Go on.
FG approves 50,000 additional slots for 2026 NYC mobilization. That looks like more graduates now would have an opportunity to serve the nation. And
Somebody, a friend of mine in Missouri said I should help him find out why one young man who graduated in 2024 has still not had his call-up. I thought he was telling fairy tales. Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh,
hey, the problem. The problem now is there are many universities and turning out graduates every year. So, and I don't think they have enough space. That's why when we served,
but that
we only
is why
had
the facilities should expand. I mean, why would somebody graduate after 4 or 5 years in the university and then now wait to serve the nation?
Facilities should expand. It's not going to lead to job opportunities expanding. I think that the obsession to attend a university should begin to be worked on. Let Nigeria begin to train people who are hands-on. Skills are now stealing the show. Even the content creation and all that is skills. It's not something you learn in the university and all that. So we need to refocus. I'm not saying those who are interested should not get a university degree, They would get it, but let the emphasis be more on learning those things that when you leave school, whether it's technical or whatever, you easily employ yourself.
Because I remember in those
days, you begin to earn money.
I remember in those days when we finished, you don't even have to bother yourself having sleepless nights over whether you're going to serve or not.
Oh, exactly. It's almost immediate.
Oh, it was immediate. It was immediate. Mine was a time when...
And also getting a job in your time was also immediate. Once you're done, you're sure that you have a place somewhere.
In my time, you went to the cafeteria and 50 naira could get you a meal ticket. And if you saw the wing, chicken wing chukudu, bigger than the person bearing the plates, those days are gone. Sometimes I ask my children, are you really enjoying your lives? They say, yes, we are, Dad. Say, you can't enjoy this kind of life now. What is there to enjoy? Say, we don't know the life you knew. This is the one we know.
I mean, so who spoiled things? That would be my question. How did things go wrong? Who is responsible?
We stopped insisting. I blame parents first. They'll tell you the economy is bad. The economy can't be so bad you don't bring up your children well. You're ruining their lives.
All right, many thanks, Chukudi. It's time to go. That's what the producer says. But I love to read quotes. They send a very strong message to me. This one says, life is a dream for the wise, a game for the fool, a comedy for the rich, and a tragedy for the poor.
It's left for Demola to know where he fits in.
Why Demola now?
Many thanks, Chukudi.
Okay, guys.
It's time to go.
Have a nice day.
Thank you for your time, as always. All
right.
We'll take a break now. When we come back, we'll get into a conversation for today. We're talking about Tinubunomics. Do you know what that is? Stay with us.
The glorious month of Ramadan is here once again, and your darling program Sahur Live on NTA is back bigger and better. Our team of erudite scholars are ready to provide insightful analysis into the religion. The Nasiha, Din and Dunya, Women Angle, Living with the Glorious Quran, and the ever-exciting quiz segment are reloaded for your viewing delight. Come and maximize your reward in this blessed month by partnering with us on this year's episode of the program. For sponsorship, Advert placement and inquiries, contact the General Manager, NTA Channel 5 Abuja, Old Parade Ground, Ereten Gauki Abuja. You can also contact us on the following telephone numbers: 080 3450 5155, 080 33 80 6162, 080 35 68 8394. Sahur Live on NTA, your indispensable companion in Ramadan. Don't miss Eid.
Cadbury 3-in-1 hot chocolate, the treat you deserve.
TerraQ on Rapjoy. Unleash taste.
Heartburn is caused by stomach acid rising. Gaviscon Double Action neutralizes this and forms a barrier to stop them rising for up to 4 hours. Gaviscon.
Introducing the new Jig Sachet. Whitening your whites has never been more affordable. Now you can keep whites shining brighter and disinfect by killing 99.9% of germs on your floors and other surfaces. Just jig it with Jig Sachet.
When malaria knocks you down, you can be sure parasites are having a party in your system.
Welcome to our new kingdom, guys!
Comel, an effective weapon against malaria. Attacking the parasite army directly to give you express relief and get you back on your feet effectively. Comel on. Malaria gone.
Guys, food is ready.
Cook to impress.
People, toilets have stains which bleach cannot clean effectively. But Harpic is thicker and sticks better, which gives 10x better cleaning versus bleach and kills germs. Oh, wow. You can now see that Harpic is better than bleach.
Are you ready? Join us on Reshaping Democracy, a groundbreaking program on the network service of the NTA, where citizens get the chance to ask ministers, heads of ministerial departments, agencies, and other top government officials questions on their performance and delivery of mandates. With no sector of limits, conversations build around bridging communication gaps for feedback and effect as our guests engage with the people they serve.
How does ND foster partnerships with organizations, government agencies, NGOs, among others?
As our leaders give account to citizens' inquiries on good governance, tune in to Reshaping Democracy, a creative concept coming up every Tuesday evening at 10:05 p.m.
This is Reshaping Democracy.
Many thanks for staying with us. It's still Good Morning Nigeria, live on the network service of the NTA. And just before we bring in our guests for the conversation on Tinubunomics, let's quickly take a look at this background report put together by our correspondent, Oyeyemi Ajayi.
Tinubunomics is a term increasingly used to describe the economic thinking and policy direction associated with the administration of Bola Ahmed Tinubu. The concept draws partly from ideas discussed in the book Financialism, Water from an Empty Well, co-authored by Tinubu and Brian Browne. The work questions development models that rely heavily on financial speculation rather than real production, arguing that sustainable growth must come from building strong productive sectors within the economy. Within this framework, Tinubunomics emphasizes policies that encourage domestic productivity, industrial development, and agricultural expansion. The policy suggests that economies like Nigeria's must focus on the real sector factories, farms, infrastructure, and innovation rather than depending mainly on stock trading or speculative finance. It also highlights the role of government policy in creating the conditions for investment, local enterprise, and long-term economic stability. For Nigeria, Tinubunomics is not just a theoretical idea, but one closely tied to everyday economic realities. Key concerns include the rising cost of living, job creation, food production, exchange rate stability, and improved infrastructure. Now, as economic reforms continue, many Nigerians are watching closely to see how the principles behind the Tinubunomics translate into practical outcomes that can strengthen livelihoods and support sustainable development across the country.
Very much, Oyeyemi Ajayi, for that background report. And we already have our guest in the studio. Joining us here is Michael Imofia-Rame Igaga. He's the Executive Secretary, West Africa Academy of Science. He's a student of development, philosophy, and political economy. Mr. Igaga, it's good to have you join us for this conversation.
Thank you very much, sir.
All right, sir. Also joining us here is Dr. Niyi Akinshiju, as Chairman, Independent Media Policy Initiatives, who is also our regular analyst. Dr. Akinshiju, it's good to have you again.
It's a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
All right, also to introduce other guests, not right here in the studio, but joining us via Zoom, all the way from Ado-Ekiti, is Professor Temidayo Oladipo, PhD, an Associate Professor of Political Science and a Distinguished Scholar in Political Philosophy and International Relations, with over 15 years of experience in higher education. He lectures at the Afe Babalola University, Ado-Ekiti, with a specialized focus on social philosophy, development, ethics, and African political thought. He's also a member of the Nigeria Political Science Association. Quite a long list. I think I'll leave it at that. Many thanks, Prof, for joining us.
Yeah, okay. All right. I think let's just come back to the studio. I guess the audio will be put right. All right, let's start with what exactly is Tinubunomics? Because when I heard that, I was wondering, what exactly? Because I was coming this morning and somebody is, what are you going to discuss today? I said Tinubunomics. And what is Tinubunomics? Mr. Igaga, maybe you just, tell us what Tinubunomics is all about and why has the West African Academy of Science decided to dedicate an international conference, to this concept?
Thank you very much, sir. Tinubunomics comes with original thought. We have been central in interrogating ideological development. And here a president comes and starts to talk, and starts to do things. And you suddenly realize that there is a shift in our perspective to growth. There's a shift in our demography in terms of, defining where wealth resides. Something unusual is happening. We started to think of something different. Why not you give it a title? So we titled it Tinubunomics.
Okay, because of it's like thinking outside the regular box.
Yeah, well, again, you talk about thinking outside the regular box. Like you said, or like it was shared in the
background report.
In the background report. Something is happening. We're moving from concentration on exploiting or trying to get weight from industrial growth to agricultural growth. But that again is not in isolation. You have agricultural growth. That it is when I read the book, Financialism, Water from an Empty Well, that I came to understand that what Tinubu is saying, what President Tinubu is saying, so to say, is look, we cannot be competing with the West in terms of economic development. We cannot be contesting with the West in terms of production because they've been there over the years. And in the book, he referred to China and all that and their growth. So why don't we use what we have to begin? And what we have fundamentally is agriculture. My people in my village don't need to import to buy the hoe and cutlass that they use to teach their farm. And so a fundamental policy shift, something surprising to Nigerians, devaluation of the Naira or deregulation of the Naira, and then people start screaming. And suddenly, there's so much weight for the country in the rural economics. It's clear. Other issues comes up that we can look at later, you know. But fundamentally, there's a shift. In the urban area, no doubt, there's a little problem. And the problem is what you're talking of, the real wages of the worker in relation to what the policy is driving. But you also look at our demography.
To their purchasing power.
Exactly. Okay. You now start to find out that for the first time, that deficit in our trade balance is eliminated. In just 1 year of the the presidency of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, we start to see, you know, a surplus, a trade surplus, internationally. Today we are talking of about $50 billion, you know, in our account. Today there's a lot of policy shifts. But it is not just, he didn't just talk about agriculture. As it was given in the background report, what he's saying is that when we are able to take control of the agricultural sector and they feed the world market and compete at that level, that we will be able to create enough surplus to drive industrial development. This is the fundamental of Tinubunomics.
Many thanks, Mr. Igaga, for your opening comments. First, as we get deeper into this conversation, we'll get to understand if all of this is what is playing out now with all these policies by the president. I'd like to get to Professor now. Professor Oladipo, I'm sure you can hear me loud and clear. Mr. Igaga just gave us a background of what Tinubunomics is about, but I'd like you to tell us how, Tinubunomics actually, differentiates from classical development models or conventional capitalism. All right, we lost the connection with Professor Oladipo. I guess I'll just get to Dr. Akinshiju here. He gave a background, Is Prof with us? Did he get the question?
Maybe you shout.
I am. Can you please repeat the question?
That connection is not as crisp as we wanted, so we'll return to the studio and hope that it gets better. Dr. Akinshiju, speak to us really. I would like you to break this down to the average Nigerian. He's talk about the developmental model of the president and, how is this different from capitalism and other classical development models?
Thanks so much. Well, I think the first thing is also to question the patent rights of Mr. Ogaga on the use of the term Tinubunomics. That had been the major reference, for anybody writing in particular about the economic policies of the president. I think the whole idea is about customizing the policies around the personage of the president. And sometimes you had also written, around Tinubunomics and all that, in the understanding that we have a truly reformist, government, being, led by the vision of the president. And talking about the developmental models, as it were, I think what the book put together by the Prof and the other team is trying to extend, into the public space, is the underlining, the ideological and philosophical underlining of the policies of the Tinubu government. And as you noted, is it entrenched in the capitalist, or better put, the neoliberal, the neoliberal economic model, or of course, the contemporary liberal economic model, or better still, in progressivism? And that had been my own reference, my preferred reference. Because, of course, the book talks about the books that is the foundation that was referenced, that's the Financialism that was referenced, actually was a condemnation of the neoliberal approach to managing an economy, which is mainly about a market-driven economy, more or less. And even an abuse of that market-driven economy that now reflected in the global financial crisis of 2000, 2008, 2009, when the American capitalist system, after becoming so ennobled, so embraved, was packaging subprime loans and selling the loans, as it were, betting on subprime loans that were not, founded on any form of assets. So it's just, okay, this company had lent out so much, we'll put it together and then sell it again. So those were products that had no asset backing, and therefore, when there's a gap, or when there's an irresponsibility on the part of the people taking that loan, it created a domino effect in the global space. And of course, it also affected Nigeria. So what that book principally talks about is for us to be wary, of an economic system that has no asset backing or productive backing, That's financialism, empty well, or something like that. But and in that exposition, the whole effort was to let the global world. I mean, it was not particularly a Nigerian audience targeted book. It's a global audience targeted book. But we can also infer from it that as at that period, as early as 2012, this president, who was not president then, who was governor then, who was former governor, had an idea, had an ideological preference, for how he wants to manage an economy, if he has the opportunity, And that economy must be managed, on the platform of progressivism, or on the ideological pivot of progressivism. Of course, eventually we have what we call the All Progressive Congress, as it were. The underlying ideology, of the party, as it were, talks to the redemption of the existing model, that was inherited. The Nigerian model is even more convoluted, unfortunately, because at the point in time when they ask us, what exactly is our economic model? You can't start talking about the neoliberal capitalist model, the Adam Smith model, as it were. You can't even start talking about the socialist model. So we now find that lazy interjection to say we do mixed economy. And in truth, there is nothing like mixed economy. You can have an interventionist, government, like you have in the United States, where capitalism, had been the major pivot of their policies. But of course, they now also say, okay, I can also provide social intervention for those people who are disadvantaged as a result of these policies. So the whole gamut of what we are talking about talks specifically to an ideology that is driving the vision, of the president, and that ideology talks to restoring the balance in the Nigerian economy, and that restoration talks exactly to where we are coming from, where we did not even have an ideology we could call the Nigerian ideology, either political or economic ideology. And that therefore, the basis of this new ideology is not just to allow for open market, as it were, without any form of regulation or control, one, or where we are talking of the mixed economy, we have the socialist tendency. In the southwest of Europe, the reference had been the Awolowo model. The Awolowo model was situated in social welfareism, free education, free health, and all that. But that it is not also enough. We must be able to aggregate and of course, accelerate productive capacity in the economy. And that productive capacity will be anchored on the pillars of the economy. One of the pillars of the Nigerian economy is agriculture. An important, significant pillar is industry, and of course, service, financial sector, telecoms, and all that. But the most important aspect is that capacity to be able to feed the people. Not only feed the people, feed and have enough to also export. So that generally would describe, not in fundamentally substantial way, what the whole ideology is all about, so that we don't also confuse ourselves, But the whole idea is, to my mind, is to say that, okay, we have come, there's this reforming zeal, that is being implemented in the Nigerian economic space. And that reforming zeal is to define where agriculture, which had been our primordial reference point in terms of economic power, but unfortunately, we have not been managing it the way we should be managing it. In the 60s, in the 50s to 60s, when we had primary agricultural products, justified by regions, the northern region, the western region, the eastern region had different specialization, but we were constrained by the fact that we were exporting raw products at that time, and we are still exporting, unfortunately, raw cocoa, for instance. We are not even exporting palm oil again, which used to be one of our stronger exports. We are not exporting groundnuts again, Well, even the cocoa that we are still managing to produce, we are not processing. So for you to export now, the emphasis is on processing. And you can now reference the president policy on a shea butter nut or something. That he came out and said, look, if we continue to export this thing raw, the value will be so low, and of course the earnings from it, will also be low. So why don't we take a buffer time where we can grow capacity to process? When we process from shea nut to shea butter, the value in the global market or in the international market becomes higher, and it has a multiplier effect on the farmers, because what they earn from it becomes higher. It has multiplier effect on even shea butter users in Nigeria, because you don't need to export the raw nuts
and then bring in the butter.
the processed butter and all that.
That also speaks to the Nigeria First policy, which
the Nigerian First policy. But of course, generally, it speaks to production and productive capacity, and to drive that is the policy, the different policies, that are being put in the place in the public space. We just had the national industrial policy, the policy on increasing the capital base of banks, are also policies that will enable the economy. Because if you have a bank that has 500 billion in its treasury, it wants to do business with people. Compare that to a bank that has just about 100 billion, would just want to do business with with a few circle of people. So if you have that large capital base, you have no choice than to lend, which is the primary responsibility, of the financial institution. And when you lend, it means that you are also empowering businesses, you are empowering the market, you are empowering the industry and all that to produce more. And when you produce more, it is also the hierarchy, it goes to the hierarchy of expanding businesses, expanding industry, and employing more. So generally,
driving the economy to the 1 trillion target.
So principally, it is what the whole thing is about, talking about the ideology, the political and economic ideology that drives the vision and the policies that we are seeing now.
All right, thank you very much, Dr. Akinshiju, for that explanation there. So let's join Professor Ladipo now, who is also one of the brain behind Tinubunomics. Let's get the ideology actually behind this Tinubunomics as regards to the broader landscape of African development. Can you just give us your explanation, please?
Good morning, everyone. Right from after independence, African leaders have actually been struggling to have development ideology for governance. Senator Kwame Nkrumah, Obafemi Awolowo, Nnamdi Azikiwe, one-party states, all these were attempts to ensure that governance is actually ideological. The attempt is to make sure that there is a delinking from the colonial legacy and the colonial ideology and philosophy that informed African governance. Unfortunately, Africa had gone through a lot. Apart from colonialism, we have moved to neo-colonialism, we have had the military rule, we have had civilian rule. And unfortunately, each of these governors all of them do not have the same set of ideology. When Bola Ahmed Tinubu, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu came to governance May 29. One of the things you can see is that you saw a president that was ready. And he said it again. Two key policies involved. The Naira-dollar exchange rate, and then the petroleum issue. Reform that you did. They were painful. And if you criticize anyone today, those are the things that you will use to criticize things. The pain on the public that those policies cause. But you can't deny that you have someone who has some ideological leaning, who has some position, some ideas about what governance is. So what does Tinubunomics and financialism mean for Africa? The idea is to say that development around the world will be in stages. Those who are talking about that, you cannot continue ideology without the thinking. You cannot get to a point where you are not saying that how am I different from America, from UK, from Canada. Yes, we adopt a lot of developmental policies from these people without criticizing them. You know, what Tinubu is saying, and Brown, you know, who authored the book, is look at where you are in the developmental spectrum, and then begin to determine where you are and what you have, and consequently can use to pursue development. So the message for Africa is we are late in the international system. You know, they barely bought us the land. They have a whole lot of control. The global north is at advantage. The global south is at disadvantage. But even at that, we have what we can negotiate with. We have minerals. We have agriculture. But the way we are pursuing the exploitation, I use the word exploitation because what, like the last speaker said.
All right, many thanks, Professor Ladipo. Quite a challenge hearing you clearly. The network is still a bit unstable, but I'm sure that we can try to fix that and return to you. We'd like our viewers to be also know that you can be part of this conversation. The number is on the screen. Send in your questions, your comments, recommendations, whatever it is as regards the topic. How you feel the economic policies of the present administration, of course, is the topic of discuss. So we look forward to reading your messages. I'd like to get to Mr. Igaga now. Away from this theory, I mean, students of economics, of course, would understand some of the terms that you both have used and what Prof is saying.
So we need to break it down.
Yes,
for
the average Nigerian.
Yeah,
now, you just talked about some of the policies. Of course, the removal of fuel subsidies is top on the list, and you know some of other reforms that we're seeing in the economy. Speak to how that would make the life of the average Nigerian better.
Great. Thank you very much. You took off from fuel subsidy, but I will start from the deregulation of the naira. Like I said, for many Nigerians, the deregulation of the naira was a negative thing on their lives. That's the way they perceived it. And even in sessions like this, it's important to address issues as they ought to be addressed. But you found out that if you take back, and you take, for instance, the development in the Asian countries, take Japan, take whatever, at a stage, even the Japanese currency was down. And that's how we looked at it. But why the same capitalist world, I don't want to name any particular country, who say Nigeria should devalue their currency, they are telling the Japanese, revalue your currency, bring it up. Because the growth in Japan were overshadowing the goods they were producing in the international market. And so we need to get this construct very clearly to see when the man says, look, let us devalue our currency. Is it just a statement or it is formed on something? And so you find out that by the devaluation of the naira, like I said, more weight has come into Nigeria, whether people like it or not. Our agricultural products are more competitive in the international market. You know, and you say yes, they are competitive. There is nothing anybody can do, but that is the basic thing, the major thing we have for interrogation, for advantage in the international market is agriculture. You know, demographically look at it. Agriculture is our bane. I'm from, every Nigerian community is agrarian, and the weather favors us in terms of agriculture. So we have that. You come to talk of the removal of fuel subsidy. Clearly, two things about fuel subsidy. First of all, there was an attempt, or there was indeed an exploitation of that fuel subsidy by certain persons to acquire an appropriate wealth for themselves through the normal fraudulent manipulations of figures and details. That was there. That was, anti-factor in Nigeria's development projections. Then the second thing about it was, yes, the government was spending so much on that. And to cut, areas of waste so that we can, take our resources and put them in other areas where development was essential, the government needed to cost. And it's better for us to see like that. There's no time that development can come without sacrifice. I'm sorry to say, but I think that our country has had its own challenges in terms of historical development. But where we are today, I am one Nigeria who is very, very confident that we have a brighter future ahead of us.
Talking about a brighter future, you just talked about the agriculture, and Dr. Akinshiju was, talking about the fact that we do not process, and that's a big challenge. And there's also insecurity on the part of even the, growing of the crops in the first place. So how has this now affected the life of the average Nigerian? Because you're saying we're looking the way of agriculture. Our products are more competitive outside, but the export is still not as good as it should be. And if you like, local consumption is also dwindling because, scarcity is also, a factor that is leading to increase in food prices. We saw that in the early part of last year, until some interventions, and then, we're beginning to see a reduction in the prices of foodstuff. So speak about, it's not about the policies itself, it's about how it trickles down to the poorest of the poor. And of course, looking at the statistics by the NBS talking about those in multidimensional poverty, the number seems to be increasing. So how will this affect a Nigerian who is listening to you at this time?
Thank you very much. I'm sorry. Sometimes I have issues with statistics as they come. There's something that came up when we were working on the first work on Tinubunomics, where we say Nigeria's journey towards sustainable development. You find out that most statistics that you confront, come from projections, I will call them, because they are not realistic to what is on ground. Yeah, I agree with you that at a stage, the level of inflation in terms of, food, was very, very high. But you notice something. There is a sharp decrease in the prices of foodstuffs. Whether we want to accept it, I don't know. I don't stay in the cities. I'm a villager. I stay in the village. And I know what the farmers are saying. And so you look at the government who removed, who devalued the currency or devalued the currency, so to say. And things were very expensive. But right now, I'll tell you something. A lot of people in the rural economy have expanded the size of their farms. Beyond what, the people in the city knows is happening out there. So that at the end, with increased production of foodstuff, the prices of foodstuff must come down as it has done. I think that the price of foodstuff are better than what it was last year.
Yeah, no doubt about
very,
that.
Very cheap, and all that. And the farmers are crying that, look, our products have become very cheap. We'll come to that on another aspect of the government, what the government has done about that. That is that. Now, I don't know where, I'll stop here because talking about expansion of wealth in the economy, as long as, more money is coming in, Dr. Akinshiju talked about production and secondary, what I call secondary layer production. You also find out that the government is deliberately driving that policy. The government issued a statement that, first of all, whatever is produced in Nigeria should not be imported. Those are very difficult policies to drive because of the way people respond. And the former president, said something that, yes, when you get there, you find out that these things are not easy to do. Because each statement you make is going to affect one man who has been eating from it. And so, as you are pursuing, the man is saying, look, this is not good for us. But there's something that's good for Nigeria. I see the country moving. So many areas. You talk of even development of military hardware and capacity. Many Nigerians are not aware of what the government is driving in that regard. And I think that for security reasons, perhaps, a lot of things cannot be said in the pages of newspapers. And all that. But I want to tell you that there's so much happening. And in terms of industrial capacity, I also see expansion. Because as long as we talk about secondary layer conversion, more people are being employed. You know, if you talk about the rural communities, for instance, I think the level of unemployment is significantly down because every person is now a farmer and joyfully farming. Because you farm and you can buy a jeep, you know, you farm and you can build a house. You see farmers, you know, moving their children from not those poor schools anymore. They are not attending government schools anymore. They have moved their children to private schools and all that in the rural communities. So much is happening in the economy. I don't know if I properly respond to that question.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Igaga. Let's come back to Dr. Akishiju. Dr. Akishiju, earlier on you talked more about, you know, the agricultural sector of the economy, how Tinubunomics is affecting that sector. Can you explain in ordinary terms so that the average Nigerian can actually understand, you know, these Tinubunomics, how it's the strategies government is using to implement, to increase food production, reduce reliance on imports, and many more?
Oh, well, I think what we have now is a hybrid. Encourage imports, encourage domestic production. And, well, perhaps we should start from the consequences of those policy deployments as they were. But for me, we still have to relate to data because data is what we use to explain some of this reality.
Okay.
And it becomes difficult to start classifying it as what ordinary Nigerians you know, will understand. I am an ordinary Nigerian, by the way.
No.
So,
I disagree with that data.
With that data.
We're talking about the man on the street.
I'm a man on the street, and there are so many of us like that on the street, you know, who particularly take special interest in what policies and the quality of policies that are being deployed. See, Nigeria is, the Nigerian economic jurisdiction is primarily an agrarian jurisdiction. And over the years, we had always performed woefully bad, you know, in that segment. The basic anchor of economy is that you specialize in your area of, what do you call it now? Specialization. So if we have land, arable land, and weather, natural weather that gives you 2 periods of rain-feed stock every year. So we know that every year you have 2 planting, 2 harvest season. And you have a landmass that is more than 600 million hectares, you know, of arable land. So what have you been doing? What have we been doing, you know, that at every turn of the year, there's always issues of food security. It would translate to mean that we have not been doing properly well. The number of the poor in this country are perpetually been above 40% of our population. We are not just talking about now. We are talking about the good 70s, when we thought those are our years of greatness, years of prosperity, the 70s. In those years, we had more than 45 Nigerians living under the poverty line. And the poverty line at that time was determined by how much a household used in feeding. Up till 2015, you know, more than 85 million Nigerians could not spend $1.9 cents, $1.90 to feed. So it does mean that food, you know, is a major decider of poverty. And if you swim in the ocean and you still use spittle to wash your hand, it talks to you about the paradox of our existence. But I think so far we are moving now. At a point in time, we were virtually dependent on food imports into this country. And I remember by that 2015 figure, we were spending an average of $6 billion to import food. into Nigeria. And that also, of course, would impact on the usage of our foreign reserve. And of course, the alternative opportunistic cost of using that kind of fund for other infrastructural provisions and facilities. So what I'm trying to say now is that by the figure we have now, by the fourth quarter 2025 figure, GDP figure, agriculture contributed more than 4%, grew by more than 4%, to the GDP, from 2.5. And for a long time, more than 15, if not 20 years, we had always averaged 2.5, 2.8, not up to 3% in terms of agricultural production, agricultural contribution, to our GDP. So now that it had moved to 4%, what it tells us is that there had been a boom. There had been an increase in agricultural production and productivity. And of course, before now, the worries had been security in the agricultural belt, the Nigerian agricultural belt of different crops production and all that. So if we have, if this figure is showing us that there had been a boom, it will also mean that to a large extent there had been a sort of management, of the insecurity issues in that along that belt. And I have also been monitoring the special processing zone. The country had been mapped out at, at regional level for agricultural processing. And I think 2 or 3 pilots had already taken off. Now, for me, that is an ideological position too, because the idea is do not stew in the colonial past. The colonial model of development we are talking about is where the colonial masters, or what I call the metropolitan capitals, assess the African continent, grab the raw materials, and then take to process and bring back. So if we are able to take off with that special processing zone, it will, of course, impact, and I know it has taken off. But another major impression another major significant impression that figure of the 2025 GDP shows us is increase in solid minerals. Solid mineral had also been the natural asset disposition in our jurisdiction for many years. Just recently that we are hearing of gold here, silver there, bauxite here, and all that. It's just recently. But in fact, it had always been there. And we wonder, especially when there was this advocacy around diversification, what governments in those years, what were they doing? When we're just always concentrating on crude oil exports. And the economic model at that time is what I call the boom and bust model. When there is increase in the price of crude oil, as we are experiencing now, everybody is happy. Foreign exchange is available. And of course, that is always a short circle, because the users of crude oil will also find a way of managing it in a way that prices will not go beyond a certain threshold. So when the price crash, as they would crash inevitably, it becomes a bust for us, economically speaking. Our revenue thresholds also crash, and there's inavailability of funds. So, but now we are seeing solid mineral contributing more. Even so much that recently there was a 1.3 billion financing agreement between the World Bank, one global financial institution, and the federal government for processing of bauxite, for extraction of alumina. They call it alumina, in Nigeria. So for me, these are the kind of secondary processing economy that would drive our own economy from the primordial system or model that we have been using, So far, so good. Like you noted, I believe that with the fall in the prices of food, with the decline in food inflation, the number of Nigerian poor are also reducing.
How?
It's by statistical projection, because when you calculate if inflation is increasing, it does mean that more people are being, the value of existence of more people are being eroded. So if you are not able to feed your family, for instance, it would be projected that such number of families are falling under the poverty line because of increase in the price of food. So if there is reduction, a decline in the prices of food, you can also now project, because we don't have the head count yet, or the survey from the survey numbers from the MBS. But what is obvious is that the MBS have told us that food inflation fell below 9%. In the last inflation figure, that's February, January inflation January inflation figures, and that is impressive enough. We are talking of food inflation that went as high as 39%, sometimes in November 2024.
What's the guarantee we're not going to go back there?
Well, there is no guarantee for anything in global economy. See, this time last year, nobody expected that the price of crude oil,
would be this high.
Nobody.
But we know what is fueling the price of crude oil, of course. That's a different scenario. So for Nigeria,
that's the base of our economy. Up till now, that is what constitutes 80% of our foreign exchange earnings. So if it goes up, we are happy. The federal system is happy. The three tiers of government is happy because, of course, allocation would increase. But the common man, as you say, would grumble because we have removed fuel subsidy as a government, as part of the responsibility of government, that had been removed. But again, you can now also imagine if fuel subsidy had not been removed and government had been responsible for providing fuel at $110 per barrel, it does mean that as you are making the money, you are channeling it to funding fuel subsidy.
But now that we have removed subsidy and the average Nigerian is paying from his pocket for fuel, why is the average Nigerian not seeing the impact of what is being saved as a result of the removal of subsidy?
So where we start seeing the impact is what we just said now. We are seeing the impact in terms of increase in food production. We are seeing the impact in terms of increase in exploitation of solid minerals. Manufacturing also increased in the last GDP.
All right, I think I'll pause you here. Let's get to Professor Oladipo. I hope your connection is better now, so we can hear you loud and clear, because you seem to understand this whole ideology better than, some of us, Tinubunomics, as it is being coined. But some critics, or if you like, analysts say that Tinubunomics, that's the economic policies of the president, is focused on macroeconomic stability and less on immediate poverty reduction. Do you agree? Mike, Prof, we cannot hear you. Unmute your mic, Prof, if you can hear me.
Hello, can you hear me now?
I can hear you.
Yes. Oh, okay. My position is that for a long time, we have operated government with deficits, oil subsidy, we have subsidized dollar, life on the streets, has been subsidized. When you're taking your beer, I'm sorry to use the ordinary Nigerian analysis that the bottle of beer you're taking is highly subsidized, So a lot of people live reckless life. But now people are more careful. You don't drive your car unless you know that it is going to earn you some money. And then that's it. You have something worthwhile to do. You don't go to the club as an ordinary Nigerian and then begin to say, give him 2 bottles, give them 4 bottles, drink 4 plates of pepper soup. So you're more realistic with spending. You're not reckless with spending anymore. So my position is that in the long run, the economy will pay us. I mean, the Tinubu government has undertaken a whole lot of reforms, you know, taxation, agriculture, manufacturing, and I want to disagree with the fact that the ordinary man is not seeing the effects. I travel around the country once in a while, and road networks are getting better. The truth of the matter is that there's a link between transportation and economic development. Governments are given more, state governments are given more money. There are reform at the local government level. That can only come from an ideological position of the need to reform government so that it can better serve the people. So in the long run, the ordinary man will feel the effect of it fully. But in the meantime, yes, like the president will always say, there's a lot to endure. Thank you.
To endure, and that Nigeria are being more realistic in their spending now. That is what you are saying, Professor Oladipo. Can you tell us more? We want to stay with you because we are really concerned about knowing more about this Tinubunomics and how it has prioritized human capital development, particularly in the area of probably education and healthcare.
Okay. Well, what we are doing is looking at the ideological position, whether it has fully translated in terms of economic development, educational and healthcare development. I mean, last year, for instance, not much was invested in the healthcare. I mean, that's the position by the time they revealed how much was given. But you see, my belief is that the government is going in such a way that if you empower the ordinary man on the streets, to be able to make more money from agriculture, from salary reform, and from a whole lot of beneficial governance that will help the people, the ordinary man will be able to access education. More universities were created. In the educational sector, for instance, recently salaries were reviewed for lecturers. And those are targets aiming to show that the teachers are important. And by being important, they are very instrumental in human development. So I see the Tinubu government thinking about education. There's still a lot to be done. Grassroots level, secondary school, issues about values, examination bodies and all that. There are quite a number of questions. But truth of the matter is that the government is addressing issues through reforms, and through investments in the way it understands. It can do better.
It can do better. Well, that's what we were all hoping for. We'll take a break now. We already have some comments and questions from some of our viewers, which we'll read out immediately after this short break. Stay with us.
Introducing the new Jig Sachet. Whitening your whites has never been more affordable. Now you can keep whites shining brighter and disinfect by killing 99.9% of germs on your floors and other surfaces. Just jig it with Jig Sachet.
Alright everyone, no pull your ears, make we talk. Time don't reach to rearrange the stars to give us small wisdom. Sans my tea fresh now, but you know own, I beg no be so. Before I go talk, say our smell no reach. Make not think I'm twice so. Ever heard of Colgate, the #1 oral care brand in the world?
Colgate Maximum Cavity Protection unlocks 24 hours cavity defense. The formula boost with calcium for lifelong smiles.
Mom, it's a time to brush. No more cover mouth.
Colgate for 24 hours maximum cavity protection.
My people, toilets have stains which bleach cannot clean effectively. But Harpic is thicker and sticks better, which gives 10x better cleaning versus bleach and kills germs.
Oh, wow.
You can now see that Harpic is better than bleach.
TerraQ, unwrap joy, unleash taste.
Do you believe in Nigeria? Oh, yes, I believe. Do you believe in our greatness? Oh, yes, I believe. Do you believe in our unity? Do you believe we can fight corruption? Oh, yes, I believe. I believe, I believe, I believe, I believe. I believe, I believe in Nigeria. Oh, yes, I believe. Do you believe in our local food? Oh, yes, I believe. Do you believe in make Nigeria good? Oh, yes, I believe. Do you believe in our naira and cover? Do you believe we can succeed? Oh, yes, I believe. I believe, I believe, I believe, I believe. I believe, I believe in Nigeria. Oh, yes, I believe.
Let's believe in ourselves. Let's have the right attitude. We've got all it takes to get there. Let's look inwards and revive all our infrastructures and galvanize our human and material resources.
I believe, I believe, I believe, I believe, I believe in Nigeria. Oh, yes, I believe.
Nigerians, believe in yourselves. Believe we can succeed. Nigeria, believe. Powered by National Orientation Agency.
Thanks for staying with us. You're still on to Good Morning Nigeria on the network service of the NTA. And our conversation is still on the Tinubunomics ideology. And our guests are still here. So we read out some of the comments and questions that we have received from you, our viewers, so that our guests can respond to them. Let me just start with this. This from Prince George. Prince George is from Uyo. He says, the reforms of President Bola Tinubu, from my opinion, has yielded positive results, such as the improved fiscal health, which has helped in stabilizing the economy and triggering inflation control. But more measures should be put in place to cushion the effects of the reforms and reduce the cost of living. That this is from Gideon. Gideon is from Apo in Abuja here. He said, what is the plan to stabilize the exchange rate under Tinubunomics? All right. Then this is from Marvel. Marvel is from Abeokuta. She said, good morning, Nigeria and guests. How long will the currency reforms take to produce results under the same Tinubunomics? Good morning. This is Bulus from Buari. Buari is in Abuja here. Are new taxes coming under Tinubunomics? This is from Victor Ogidile from Ibadan. It says, is Nigeria borrowing more under the new economic policies? That is from Mohammed Awal Musa Afema from Kano. He said, how can communities track the reallocation of funds, say from the fuel subsidy removal, to ensure they are invested in local infrastructure, healthcare, and education? Secondly, he says, what rising food inflation, what urgent steps are being taken to stabilize food prices and support local food production rather than relying on food distribution palliatives? You, Mr. Gaga, you want to respond to some of this?
It's okay. Let's take them as I can remember, as you were reading out there so much.
Okay.
First of all, talk about the exchange rate.
Stabilizing the exchange rate.
The reality is that for those who have been following, something happened about a week ago or 2 weeks ago. The naira was gaining, value against the dollar, and the government stepped in and did some rearrangement of that relationship between the dollar and the naira. Something about it. I don't want to start to go into who it favored and who it didn't favor. That's not the issue. But majorly it favored the Nigerian people. It favored our future as a production economy. Even the intervention of government. But something very wonderful was this. I am happy to see in Nigeria a country that does not depend on what one other country says out there before we know what to do. Because we don't have anything to offer. Because the only way we can move forward is to go and borrow. And they say, no, we're not going to give you money except your naira is like this. We now have a system where, policy drivers can sit back to say, look, this is what we want to do. So whether you like it or not, I don't know how anybody's looking at it. I think a lot of things is happening to currency stabilization and all that. Much of that stabilization that is being talked about wouldn't come from, would rather have impact. You read it more from how much of control and command does the Nigerian people and the government have over how our currency relates. I think we're almost there, if we are not there already.
Okay, almost there. Let's read some of the other comments we have from our viewers. This one says, my name is Isa Adamu from Abuja. Why did prices of food, fuel, and transportation rise so sharply shortly after the policies began? Hello, everyone. This is Susan Boko from Buari. When will inflation start going down? I think it's already going down from the figures that we have. Thanks for giving us this lecture on Tinubunomics. What concrete steps have been taken to reduce the cost of basic goods? Another one says, good morning, presenters and guests. When will Nigerians get the benefits of the subsidy removal? This one says, Ejike Ume from Uyo. Why has the Nigerian Naira lost so much value? Is this a good thing? Good morning, guests. Tinubunomics is new to me. But my question is, why is electricity tariff rising?
What's rising?
Electricity tariff. All right. So this says, good morning to you all. This is Adesoa Ono from Caro. What are the measurable milestones for success? Indeed, that's a great question. Another one says, good morning. I disagree with some people there. You cannot improve agriculture by importing food. The ordinary man is not happy. Please. And that's coming from Matthew Fada from Kafancha in Kaduna State. This one says, good morning, NTA. I want to say that the so-called critics, I want to believe that so-called critics, that the average Nigerian is not feeling the effects of the reform is not correct. In my hometown, we hardly ever see capital projects executed by the state government. But in 2025, almost all our township roads were tarred. So how can you tell me that we are not feeling the effects of the reforms? And this is coming from Olabode in Egbe, Kogi State. Yeah, so I'd like Professor Oladipo, to put some of these comments together and tell us where we are headed as a nation with Tinubunomics, of course.
Thank you. We're getting better. We are not where we are, although we are not where we are going. And the government is doing it best, by taking money from what it has considered irrelevant and moving it to what it is now relevant. I mean, I love one of the comments actually affected load network improvement. Very vital for the economy. Movement of farm produce from the farm to town to export location. I mean, that can only be facilitated by better and improved network. At the international level, Nigeria is also trying to rethink alliances, dependent on the global health, and trying to. It's now a partner with BRIC, and that's Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, plus. All these are to create alternative development plans, and alliances, so that eventually the cumulative effect of all these things can tell on the ordinary man. But you see, if you think that we will start it today and we will feel the effect tomorrow, it will not happen. But I'm sure that the economy is getting better, and it can only be better.
So thank you, Prof. Now, as we begin to round up the conversation, you're having a conference on this ideology, Tinubunomics. What's that about?
Thank you very much. First of all, the perspective as development agents is to realize that development itself is ideologically driven. Whether you talk about the Adam Smith model and all that, and moving to Matos and all sorts of going to Keynes, going to the Gabriel economy and all that, the reality is that development is driven by ideology. Ideology is not just about Marxism, it's a component, it's a totality of things that has to do with our value system. What are the things that drive our values? What are the things that drive our religion? What are the things that drive our mindset? This is where we are. And as a development institution, the West Africa Academy of Science factors the place of ideology in the development of our economies. Now, note that I didn't say the Nigerian economy, because economies don't develop in isolation. We've had it before in this country, where Nigeria was developed, and every person in West Africa, Senegal, Ghana, everybody poured into Nigeria, and instead of growing, poverty returned. And then you had the question of Ghana must go, which has even become the name of a bag now. And so because the projections of what was coming in was not in relation with the consumption. And so what are we doing in the West Africa Academy of Science? We're talking of a regional development, an African regional development, premised on ideology. And the factor is that we must have a regional factor. If Nigeria is developing, Ghana must develop, so that nobody will be running around and all that. You can stay in your country and feel that development. Now, how does it come to the international conference? The international conference says, look, somebody has said something, that we don't need to start looking for imported models. We don't need to start waiting for the IMF to tell us what to do. We don't need to wait for the World Bank to tell us what to do. We have the capacity to use what we have to get what we want. And the fundamental necessity is agriculture. And why have we situated this, to the West African sub-region, fundamentally? Because if we take it to the African region in its totality, we don't want to run into a contradiction. The contradiction is that the weather in Nigeria and in the West African sub-region might not exactly be the same as the weather in North Africa.
Mm-hmm.
So if you are postulating here, you'll be doing what we have been doing. Take theories, formulated in America, formulated in Britain, and bring them here and tell us that they work. This is how they develop, so this is how we must develop. It doesn't really go like that. So we're talking of a West African regional development factor. Now, the conference, so to say, is to, first of all, bring onto fore, the perspective which is showcased by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu and Brian Browne. We co-authored the work. We can't silence that, on the question of a development paradigm that is applicable in the West African sub-region.
Now, talking about this book, I mean, is it something I can pick up from the shelves?
Fantastic. I think that a lot has to be done on that.
Yeah, because we need to read, understand what it's about, so that we can know where the president is headed, so we can, see the future even from the suffering at the moment.
That's very good, because, like I said, when we started this work, I didn't even know that the president wrote a book. And I'm sorry to say that, that's the truth, I'm sure that, somebody somewhere will join the West African Academy of Science to deal with that aspect. The first person to tell me about this book was Honorable Sunday Dare, former minister for whatever, when he read my books. I said, he wrote a book. And then when we started to bring in, academics to start to interrogate this issue, we also found out that many academics are not even aware that the president wrote a book. And essentially, it's when you read that book that you come to understand what the government is doing. And when I was coming, I told somebody, we are not coming here to praise, worship, anything. We are coming here to talk of what we believe in. Because having read the book, you see the theoretical framework from which the president is drawing his policies. And then you see that, yes, you can confidently say as a Nigerian that this country is going somewhere.
Okay.
So my candid opinion is that after the international conference, which is holding in Lagos State University on the 25th of March, we will be able to partner with the presidency or with the president, the authors of the book, the president and Brian Browne, to see how we can replicate, good volumes of that book and put in the hands of Nigeria.
Why are you having this conference in Lasso, by the way?
Well, thank you very much. In the course of planning the conference, a lot of things comes to mind. We are not having an Eco for Show conference. Eco for Show is where people come and then you have big men, you have... no, we're talking about Africa's development on an ideological framework. And ideology is not something that exists now. It lives forever. Mm-hmm. Now, the people that can drive an ideological quest properly is the academics, the students who are presently there. So there's no way we'll go to Museum Center or any other place where we'll be talking to big men with big cars.
Okay.
We're talking of a place where we'll have the students gathered and they listen to papers that are being presented and they get interested in this work. And they start to write their thesis either as first degree, master's, and PhD on these conditions.
All right, thank you very much, sir. Dr. Akinshiju, we're looking at, people that will need to drive these Tinubunomics. What role do you think the media and the policy makers, or policy institutions need to play in helping Nigerians understand the complex economic reforms that we have now?
Yeah, well, I think we should express our gratitude, as it were, to NTA. This is not just an easy, ordinary, convenient to understand issue. Because issues around theories, because ideologies are based on theories, can be complicated. They can be over the counter, So to even discuss it takes a lot of creative energy to bring it to the public space, as it were. So I think we should commend the NTA for this. Continuous engagement, continuous conversation around policies, would help Nigerians. Either at the level of the common man, everybody, as far as I'm concerned, everybody is a common man.
Except you.
Well, I know that I'm a common man. And I also know that, unfortunately, the Nigerian elites don't reach. That's the unfortunate thing. And that is why you see some respectable titles come to the public space and make genuine submissions. Submissions that are not relevant, that are outside the context of even the policies that are very obvious. See, for instance, we do not need to critique the removal of fuel subsidy. We had seen all the back, forth, flip side and all that of the abuses of fuel subsidy. And that the only thing we can only require of removal of fuel subsidy is accountability. Because it is about opportunity cost. For every fuel for every liter of fuel.
That's why the critic is necessary. To ensure that there is proper accountability and transparency in the implementation of
the critic must also be in context. That's what I'm saying. Okay. So that you don't also further confuse, those who are on the margin of the conversation, as it were. Because someone at the point in time was saying that the opportunity cost that we talk about of increase in prices are not as high, or is not as high as the removal of fuel subsidy. And I said, okay, if you're talking about opportunity cost, you are relating one product item, to various sectors of the economy, either in terms of infrastructure, soft and hard infrastructure and all that. So the essential thing is to continue to have this platform of engagement for us to continue this conversation about the policies of government, and that these policies are not just created from phantom vision. It has hook and anchor on an ideology, and that this ideology is actually a reformist-based ideology. We have abused the processes of, our economic model all this while. We don't even understand it. We are just doing, IMF says we should do this, World Bank said we should do this, European Union said we should do this, and as they are saying, we're just mixing it up. But when you have a fundamentally, understanding of an economic model, you can now start drawing, those policies and adapt to the jurisdiction. Because the way you implement progressivism, for instance, in Nigeria, will be different from the way you implement in Kenya. And it will be different from the way you implement in Luxembourg, because there is a need to adapt the domestic culture.
Thank you so much, Dr. Akinshiju. It's time to go. I do not know if we can take 30 seconds from Professor Oladipo, his final words on the conversation, on the topic rather, as we round off. Professor Oladipo, 30 seconds. Your final words to Nigerians.
Thank you. It's unfortunate network messed me up a bit, but the essence of the program today is that, for one, we have an ideological foundation laid for governance. Somebody who is pursuing something with a focus, and hoping to achieve and hence, Fortunately, there's a difference between idea and implementation. There's no between the discomfort, but at least it had some mental idea should be able to.
Thank you so much, Professor Timidayo Oladipo. Like I said, network not too friendly, but of course, we hope we'd have you in some other conversations. Lecturer at the Department of Political Science, Afe Babalola University, Ado-Ekiti. It was indeed a pleasure to have you with us. Dr. Niyi Akinshiju, thank you so much, for always sharing your insight with us. We deeply appreciate you. Chairman, Independent Media and Policy Initiatives and Financial and Investment Analyst.
Thanks so much.
It was indeed a pleasure to have you again. And of course, Michael Imoaferame Igaga, Executive Secretary, West Africa Academy of Science and Student of Development, Philosophy and Political Economy. Thank you so much. Wish you all the best in the conference. And of course, I really want to read the book. I'm sure a lot of Nigerians want to see the book, so that, it just gives you hope that, okay, we're headed somewhere, and all of this would bring us good at the end of the day. So that's our package. This morning on Good Morning Nigeria, you learned something new, Tinubunomics. Yes, spread the word. I'm Henry John.
Adama Dimaladio, you do have a wonderful day.